Hey guys, welcome back to Horsetooth Cinema, and today I'm going to be reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is the new movie by James Gunn. This is obviously the third installment in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise from Marvel, and this one revolves around Peter Quill, who is still reeling from the loss of Gamora, and he must rally with his team around him to defend the universe along with protecting one of their own. A mission that, if not completed successfully, could quite possibly lead to the end of the Guardians as we know them. So I made it very clear on this channel, I've been very disinterested with just about everything Marvel's done post Infinity War, basically. But James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy movies stand out to me as gems in what is otherwise largely, a field of mediocrity when it comes to the MCU. And mediocrity might not even be what I feel about their average output. The first one's good. I really like how it sets up all of these different, weirdos from across the galaxy and kind of sets up how they team up. And I just like a lot of James Gunn's kind of gross oddball humor that he likes to put in these films. But it's also a film where the main villain, Ronan, is pretty weak, and the film does feel to me like it's trying to set up too many different things leading up to stuff like Infinity War, and I would rather just like to watch a movie for a singular experience instead. And then there's the second one, which I actually just caught up recently before I went to go see the third one, and I was really pleasantly surprised. I mean, I think that the Guardians 2 might be my favorite MCU film, if not my favorite, then certainly top 3. It has a lot of fun with the humor. I was pretty surprised how much I was laughing in it, even compared to the first one. And it's a lot more visually imaginative, I think, than the first one. There's lots of really weird touches to it. But also what I like, especially compared to the first one, is that the emotional stakes in it involving, the villain, Kurt Russell as Quill's father, all that stuff is involving, at least relatively to a superhero movie. But it also doesn't feel like it destroys the tone of what the movie is. And it's also just really contained to this one adventure, which I really like. It feels in some ways like the most disposable, or one of the most disposable MCU adventures, but that's exactly what I like about it. It doesn't feel like it has to set up all these different things. And so, given all that, of course, I wanted to go see the third one. I hadn't been to the theater to support an MCU film in forever. The last one was Spider-Man No Way Home, of which I was thoroughly disappointed when I finally got around to checking it out. But I have a lot of faith in James Gunn from his background in filmmaking prior to his career at Marvel. And also, I like what he's done with his first 2 Guardians movies. And so I wanted to see if he delivered the goods. And I wasn't, I think this film was a mixed bag, but I wasn't really disappointed. I thought he did largely deliver the goods. I will start with some of the issues I have with the film. There's 2 big ones. And the first one is pacing. And, I do think, obviously it's the longest entry in the franchise, and that's not necessarily a problem on its own, but the problem for me is that the emotional stakes don't really justify the length. I don't want to spoil it too much if you haven't seen it. I would think most of you probably have seen it by now, especially since I'm kind of late to the party in reviewing this. But there's a central plot in the film that revolves around Rocket, the raccoon character, even though he doesn't like to be referred to as a raccoon. And I won't say exactly what this conflict is, but this conflict is essentially resolved about 40 minutes before the movie actually ends, after which the film kind of gets lost narratively into this haphazardous mess of all of our heroes trying to escape and survive, but it feels less like there's a driving force moving everything forward compared to the rest of the film. And there are ways, especially when you tie in all the flashback sequences that you have with Rocket, there are ways in which the climax does tie in to kind of that whole we need to save Rocket arc of the film. But for me, it's pretty lazy and rather weak. The other big issue with the film is that out of all of the 3 Guardians movies, this one does feel the least tonally consistent, which is obvious, which is probably my number 1 complaint with Marvel these days. And I will say this is not like a Thor Love and Thunder level tonal issue, where in that movie they introduce a cancer subplot at the in this film that's basically just throwaway jokes all the time. It's not that bad, but there are issues with it. In general, the Guardians movies do a much better job compared to a lot of Marvel films at sort of finding a balance of different tones that they want to include. But I think out of the 3, this is certainly the least balanced. The animal cruelty stuff that is, takes up a large part of the flashbacks as sort of Rocket's background, that stuff is all really powerful, especially because this is essentially Rocket's movie, given that the last one was Star-Lord's movie. But it also is a pretty hard left turn compared to where the rest of the film wants to go with the crew, both before and after these sequences. Now, having said all that and gotten into my issues with it, I did really enjoy seeing James Gunn and the whole crew have one final showdown. I talked about, the emotional stakes being low for me in that last 40 minutes where the pacing is weaker, but I also think that sequence, those last 40 minutes, contains some of the most exciting action that's in the film. I mean, there's one oneer that a lot of people talked about that goes through a hallway that I do think is really strong. I think it's some of the best action James Gunn has done for Marvel, and he's one of the best directors of action that works with Marvel for sure. And there is a lot of James Gunn weirdness that he, that is new that he likes to throw in. I mean, there's the world that they go to, I think it's called like Alternative Earth or something like that, where everybody seems to have like faces that you think you'd find in a Trauma movie from earlier in James Gunn's career, like the other two Guardians films. There's a Howard the Duck cameo in this. There's lots of weird touches to this that make it seem like it's envisioned by somebody who actually loves comic books compared to your average standard fare for Marvel. And this kind of weirdness is just really refreshing for Marvel. I just wish that it had that it was as refreshing in that way as Volume 2, and that it kind of was as gutsy with its imagery. But also, like Volume 2, I really liked that, especially when you compare both of the sequels to Volume 1, Guardians 3 is very comfortable just being its own thing. It doesn't feel like it has to set up the next 5 movies or Disney Plus shows at this point. So yeah, I kind of like the standalone nature of this. And it's just, it was just a good time at the movies. I went and saw it with some friends who are much more into Marvel than I am. But I think I enjoyed it just about as much as them. Maybe a little bit less, but I would say overall, whether you're into the MCU or not, I can recommend this movie pretty strongly. I think you'll probably have a good time with this. So yeah, all that being said, I'm gonna give this movie 3 stars. It's been a while since I've given a new Marvel movie a rating that high, so I'm happy for that. I would like to see more good films come out of the studio, and I think that's going to happen if they continue to let filmmakers with a vision like James Gunn kind of do whatever they want, as opposed to what they've done in the past, trying to constrain filmmakers like Sam Raimi and Doctor Strange 2, for example. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you like this, you can like the video down below and subscribe to the channel. I've got more videos coming up soon. I actually have a live stream, my first ever live stream coming up in the plans as well, so I'll let you guys know about that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya!